Well, good morning again. And it is good morning. The sun's shining bright on this wonderful Friday morning. But welcome to the Bat Cave again. Welcome back. And this is going to be part 2 of what I was calling the Northumberland coastal trip, shall we say. Coastal journey. This is from Alnwick out to the coast to Seahouses, Beadnell Seahouses, up to Bamburgh Castle, etc., and then round by the main road and down to across the causeway, that is, to Holy Island, Lindisfarne. There's a limited amount of stuff I could show on Lindisfarne because traffic's not allowed into the village itself anymore, so it's a bit limited, but it gives you the feel for the place. So that's this episode anyway. There's still a couple more to come, but in a week or so's time. So have a look through this one, see what you think, and let me know if you like it. And as usual, if you haven't subscribed already, it is free and it does help. And if you want to leave a comment, they're always welcome comments because I always reply to them. It's always nice to read them, to be honest. So yeah, let me know what you think. Cheers. See you in the next one. Will you join me again for the run into Seahouses? Well, we'll be stopping briefly. Before heading across to, or heading up I should say, to Bamburgh. Seahouses is not the village it used to be. It used to be very much a fishing harbour for Seahouses, but the fishing is all but gone now compared to what it used to be. And a lot of the trawlers have had a change of use. They've been converted into sightseeing boats, because out beyond, just offshore from Seahouses and Bamburgh, are the Farne Islands. And they're a lovely group of islands, but as I say, a lot of the trawlers that were based at Seahouses have had a change of use, and they've become trip boats, because out on the Farne Islands is you can see them out there now. Having said that, with these action cameras, you don't see on the camera what I see with my own eyes, unfortunately. The Farne Islands are out there, and there's a massive colony of seals out there. Thousands of seals live out there, and of course the tourists all like to see the seals. There is also a massive colony of seabirds, terns, kittiwakes, puffins at the right time of year, which is probably a little bit late for puffins now, but at the moment that business doesn't exist because of the avian flu. So excuse me, people are not allowed to land on the islands anymore, so the trip boats will still be going out there, but just not going anywhere near the islands because of this bird flu business. Belty Galloway Cattle. A reminder of my time spent at Port Patrick, out in Dumfries and Galloway. More evidence on the right here of a good walk spoilt. I did have a go at golf at one time, but no, it wasn't for me. Always preferred my walking to be in the mountains. Yeah, so this is Seahouses we're coming into now. So we'll go down the main street and see how close we can get to the harbour for a brief stop while I change the battery in my camera. Just to give you some idea of what Seahouses are like these days. At least we can get a glimpse of the harbour. There are still one or two trawlers operating, but a lot of them are indeed diving boats and trip boats for tourists. Photo time. Bear with me. I'll change the battery in my camera. Well, that's it, the battery's changed. Photos taken. So let's go along to Bamburgh. On the way across there, I have a little story to tell. I'm going to pull in here so we can see across to the Farne Islands themselves. I do hope you can see what I'm talking about. I'm fully aware that these cameras don't show everything that I would like them to see. You see out there, you see the boat coming in, that's one of the trip boats. See the Farne Islands, you can see the red and white lighthouse, hopefully, and there's another lighthouse just behind the St Aidan's sign, Longstone Lighthouse. Back in 1838, I think it was, 1838, there was it was a stormy night in September, and there was a steamer, the Forfarshire, was steaming north heading for Scotland, and it really was a stormy night, pitch dark, and for one reason or another the Forfarshire lost its power, so they put the sails up instead, but they couldn't avoid the rocks. and they were washed up. The ship was washed up onto Great Harker Rocks, which is sort of over to the left a little bit. And the lighthouse keeper on Longstone Lighthouse was a fellow called William Darling, and he was there with his wife and his daughter, Grace. Grace was only 19, 20, and Grace was watching very carefully through the telescope, watching what was happening, and she saw the wreckage up against the rocks, and she could see people escaping from the wreckage and clinging to the rocks. And she coaxed and cajoled her father into launching the cobble. The cobble is it's a little boat, a little rowing boat that's peculiar to this coastline. In actual fact, is the cobble. But she coaxed him into launching the cobble, very much against his wishes. He said it was, as far as he was concerned, it was suicidal to go out in the wee boat. But she forced him. She went along with him. She says, he said, yes, I'll go, but you'll have to come with me. Which she did, and she did as much of the rowing as her dad did, and they saved 9 lives, saved 9 souls, which rendered her, Grace Darling, as an absolute heroine, which she was. She was much lauded for her bravery, and it was that and 1 or 2 other incidents that led to the formation of the RNLI, to be honest. But that was Grace Darling. She was very brave and very strong on that particular night, but 2 years later she succumbed to TB and died. But that's Grace Darling. I've always found that a really interesting story, to be honest. So yes, the Farne Islands out there. And out in front of us is Bamburgh Castle, and you can see the start of Bamburgh Beach effectively down to the right. Fantastic spread of sandy beach and dunes as well down there. It's certainly a better afternoon than it was the morning, weather-wise. It's getting quite nice now. So we've got a really good view of Bamburgh Castle now. By the late 1800s it was in ruins. There'd been a fortification here. This was the seat of the kingdom of Bernicia for many hundreds of years, and there was a fortification here, a very basic fortification here for centuries, from at least as far back as around about the 6th century. But as I say, by the late 1800s it was in ruins, and William Armstrong, that man again, he came along and he bought the ruins and rebuilt it to the level it is today. But there are still digs going on there in the grounds of Bamburgh Castle, because there are Saxon artifacts being dug up all the time within the grounds of Bamburgh. I'm so proud of the fact that I was professionally connected, if you like, with features like this when I was driving the coaches. I had almost as strong an affinity for Northumberland as I did for Scotland. A little bit more of a better view of the castle. In fact, I'm going to just one has to take one's photographs when one can. Photos taken, so we continue north up into Bamburgh village itself. Another really attractive village. Now I have a little bit of a story. I've always got stories. Because what we got here is the Church of St Aidan. Now you can see quite an elaborate memorial, shall we say, with a roof on it. That is a memorial to Grace Darling, but it's not a grave. A grave is out of the way over to the right, but the memorial is built there with a roof on it like that so that seafarers could see her memorial, effectively, Grace Darling's memorial, and pay their respects to it as they sail past. That's the reason that the memorial is separate from the grave. It's really is a bit special to be able to come here on the bike, having spent so much time here with my passengers with the coach. Yes. Over the way, of course, that's a Lifeboat Museum, which is bigger than it was when I used to call here. The Grace Darling Museum. Anyway, onwards and northwards. So that was Bamburgh and Grace Darling. So now we're going to head up to Holy Island and Lindisfarne. According to the tide tables, I've got until about 7:30 to be off the island before the tide covers the causeway. You'll see what I'm talking about as we drive across, as we ride across there, for those that haven't been across there. We should be on the island by 5 o'clock, and we'll not be spending much time across there. Just wanted to show you around so you can see what's what. Of course, the one name I haven't mentioned amongst all this lot is the name of St Cuthbert. It's known as Cuddy locally, St Cuthbert. He built a chapel out on the Farne Islands, and he founded the priory on Holy Island, which is how come Holy Island got its name, of course, through having the priory on there. Priory's in ruins now. Now there are fleeting glimpses of Holy Island and Lindisfarne over to the right there, but it's very distant and this camera won't show them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off for now and switch back on again as we get closer to the causeway over to Lindisfarne. So I saved a little bit of the A1, mainly because of its history. This is the Great North Road. This was the original connection between England and Scotland. It's the Great North Road. It's moved around all over the place, but this is one of the few areas where it's still following the same route. Go a few miles further south is Scotch Corner, which is where all the traffic came across from the other side of England to join the Great North Road to travel up to Scotland. Scotland Yard in London. The reason that's called Scotland Yard is because it's where the Great North Road started, more or less across the road from Scotland Yard. So we're now on the road that takes us across to Holy Island and Lindisfarne. And the way to get across there, because as I've said, it's a tidal island, as we call them, and there is a tidal causeway. Now the causeway should be clear until about 7:30 tonight, and it is now 4 o'clock, 4:40. So we've got time. We'll nip across, have a look around, I'll show you what's across there, and then we'll nip back. That'll be today done and dusted. We couldn't come across here, couldn't come all the way up here to Northumberland and not have a look at but that's the main line, of course, up to Edinburgh. As used by the Flying Scotsman back in the day. I don't think I could pick a better bike for this job, to be honest, than the humble Himalayan. So this is the start of the causeway. Danger, do not proceed when water reaches causeway, with a turning round point there. That's a refuge, just in case somebody does get stuck and waterlogged. And the footpath across is over to our right, and there's a refuge on there, over across there as well. This is another road I wanted to ride across on a bike instead of in a coach for many years now. But you can see just how easy it would be to get marooned, if you like, on the worst places to be marooned, but yeah, we'd be stuck on here from about 7:30 until 11:30 at night. If we miss the tide. Well, that's the end of the causeway. So we're now on Holy Island itself. Now we can't go into the village itself, not on the bike anyway, so we're going to just go down here a ways. That's as much as we can do on the bike. So there's the castle, Lindisfarne Castle, on its headland. It's now in the hands of the National Trust, is the castle. And then over the way you can see the boats there at the harbour. Well, I couldn't get the bike down here, but it's worth a walk. Just have a closer look at the castle. Like I say, that's in National Trust hands these days. The Farne Islands out there, Bamburgh Castle in the distance there, harbour wall, and these really interesting fishermen's huts made out of old boats, upturned boats. Something that struck me about this place the first time I came was these the fishermen's huts, and then behind the huts, the bare bones of the priory ruins. I'll have a closer look at those. So now we've got the ruins of Lindisfarne Priory there in front of us. Just the bare bones ruins. Been in ruins for centuries now. But it's an impressive set of ruins all the same. Well, that's Holy Island done and dusted. And I suppose really the Northumberland coast, or at least the bit that we're interested in, done and dusted too. The poles you can see over to the left, they are guides for walkers we're following St Cuthbert's Way. St Cuthbert being the guy that's responsible for Lindisfarne Priory. It's a bit of a pilgrimage, to be honest. It winds all over the place across to Scotland, across into Scotland. The reason there is a St Cuthbert's Way is because when the Vikings invaded, they were intent on desecrating St Cuthbert's remains and his artifacts that were buried with him. So he was removed from his resting place and carried all over the place to get them away from the Vikings, who were so desperate to plunder his remains. So where are we now? 6 o'clock. Another hour and a half, and this will be all but underwater as the tide comes in. It comes in very quickly as well because the ground is so flat. So that's it. Thanks for watching again. I've tried to make it as interesting as possible. It's been an absolute pleasure for me riding these roads that I've previously only covered on 4 and 6 wheels effectively. But yes, if you've enjoyed it, if you found it interesting, give us a like if you could, give us a thumbs up, and as usual, if you've not already done so, perhaps you'd like to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything and it does help my little channel. So with that, I'll say toodaloo until the next one, which should be tomorrow. Cheers, bye bye.